Next up, Andrew Schulz. I've been listening to Andrew Schulz for some time now. He has a couple dope podcasts. One of them is The Brilliant Idiots, which you guys have definitely heard me mention in the past, either through this podcast and or through my Midday Monday boost letter, where I feature a podcast every week, and I name it the podcast of the week that I'm recommending for you folks to listen to, or any of the subscribers of the Midday Monday boost letter, which you can subscribe to totally for free at spuntoday.com/subscribe if you're interested. So he has that podcast, which he hosts together with Charlemagne the God from The Breakfast Club, and also New York Times best-selling author of Black Privilege and Shook Ones, Anxiety Playing Tricks on You. Two different books. One of them is Black Privilege, and the other one is called Shook One. I kind of said it like all together the first time around, so it sounded like one book, but it's actually two. Dose. And Andrew Schulz also has another podcast called Flagrant 2 with Akash Singh, and which is another comic, Indian guy, and Kaz, whose full name I do not know. But that podcast is more like sports specific, but that's what I love about podcasts, because they can speak about like current events and all types of shit. That I love the loose format of podcasts, because you get perspectives of people. You get to see how do I explain it? You get to see more sides of a person than just one narrow perspective on one specific topic. So you kind of get to see a more holistic view of the person. You kind of get to see what other things inform the thoughts and ideas of this person that they might have on something related to sports. Like when you hear them, go off on a tangent and speak about politics, for example. So it's like this podcast. I speak about a whole bunch of different things, but my lean is towards writing. I do like writing specific episodes where I go over some of my free writing, or share short stories with you guys, or tell you guys about writing my novel, Fractal, which you can find a link to in the episode notes of this episode. But also in like when I speak about shows and movies, and I get into like the dialogue writing that I'm into, whether it be Aaron Sorkin's or Quentin Tarantino's, like their styles of writing, etc., etc. So I'm leaning towards writing. So there's usually that like kind of through line in my episodes. But I speak about all types of shit, right? Like now I'm speaking about comedy specials. I've spoken about MMA, UFC, boxing, movies, TV shows, etc., etc., etc. So that's what I like about other podcasts, like, Flagrant 2. It's heavier on the sports side, but they also speak about a bunch of other shit. The Brilliant Idiots, where they banter about current events and give their insights from, Charlemagne's side of being a co-host of one of the biggest platforms in radio, in The Breakfast Club, and Andrew Schulz coming from a comedic point of view and on his way to becoming one of the most popular up-and-coming comics. And it makes for like really interesting shows, really good content. And anyway, so I've been listening to Schulz for a minute, and I like his point of view. I like his, although I don't agree with him, I like his, well, let me rephrase that, because I said that wrong. Not that I don't agree with him, period. Like, even though I don't agree with him on every single thing that he says, is what I meant. I really appreciate his ability to take the contrarian point of view on things and be able to sensibly debate for that side of any argument. Seems like allows people to like really consider that other side of things, whether they're on this side or really are on that side. And it's important whenever possible to kind of look at a 360 view, kind of looking at an argument at a point through the lens of a 360 view. Anyway, that's what I think folks like Andrew Schulz bring to the table in terms of being contrarians. And Schulz is largely credited with the business model, if you will, approach to comedy being, stand-up comedy being, releasing your shit for free on YouTube and Instagram and platforms like that, as opposed to just relying on Netflix and Amazon and HBO and Showtime to purchase and put out your content for you. And he had an idea of putting out and he's done this in the past with his first hour special that he wasn't able to sell to like Comedy Central or any of these other outlets, and called Views from the Cis, and cis being cisgender, which is just means like white male, and Views from the Cis is kind of like a play on Drake's album Views from the Six. And he released that on Instagram and YouTube in, I think it was like 10 or 15-minute increments, and it was like once every Friday for like a month, and until he released the whole thing for free. And then after like the last fourth piece, he released like the whole thing together so you could watch it like together, and that got a shitload of attention and downloads and views and stuff. And this one, he decided to kind of sort of do the same thing, but to release it, it's like a half hour long, release it all together on YouTube, and it's just a off the dome crowd work special, similar to one that I saw back in the day that Todd Barry did called Crowd Work back in 2014. And it's just him, fucking people in the crowd. It's brilliant. It's funny. It's hilarious. Something interesting that he decided to do, which when I heard the approach initially, it kind of sort of didn't make sense to me. But it was that he wanted to drop it purposely on the same day of Dave Chappelle's special, the one that just came out, Sticks and Stones. And I heard different versions of, or different reasons why, different like approaches why, which was like something along the lines of, when people watch a comedy show and they're like in that vibe, in that zone of wanting to hear comedy, they'll want to continue consuming it. And especially if they enjoy Dave Chappelle's, and they're gonna want to look for other shit, and they might stumble upon his, and boom, there's some fresh content there. And I also heard the approach of just wanting to see the reaction to one special, which is from the GOAT Dave Chappelle, that's polished, perfect bits on a big platform, versus Andrew Schulz, a lesser known comic that is putting it out for free on YouTube, and it's just crowd work. It's not polished bits and material. And he wanted to see how those two like paradigms, if you will, juxtaposed to each other, how they fared, how they did. And again, I didn't think that was a good kind of like idea to drop it the same day, and he was proved right. I think Charlemagne also was said in the podcast that he kind of didn't get like that approach, but whatever. Schultz kind of stuck to his guns, did it that way, and it to date has already over 1,066,000 views on YouTube, which is awesome. It's outstanding. And I just want to share one more thing on this special, which was one of my favorite bits. And you can see how quick and clever and how fast Schultz is on stage. He has an Indian dude, or a Sikh dude, in the audience, and he points out how those like metal bracelets that they wear are symbolic to how Sikhs were the warrior class of their people back in the day, and they used to have these like large metal like sheaths on their wrists, and that was to like block sword attacks and shit like that. And now it's just like a metal kind of like fashion bracelet that they wear, and all it's good for anymore is just to rest on the steering wheel while they're driving Uber. And that was and he just did that like on stage while he's like interacting with the dude. Like told that piece of history, which I don't know if it's true or not. The way he made that connection to like Indian Uber drivers and having that bracelet, which all Indian dudes really do wear. Okay, maybe not all, but a shit load enough for it to be like a common thing that everybody recognizes. It was just absolute genius. But anyway, guys, check it out. It's called the Crowd Work Special, and it's by Andrew Schulz, and I'll link to it in the episode notes.